is that only one suggestion per message. Do not use a new suggestion to boost a previous suggestion, which makes sense, along with not having multiple suggestions in the same one. No complaint or bug suggestions, no troll suggestions. Suggestions that reach a certain threshold of upvotes 50 plus will be sent to developers, right? So that's one of the new things. Okay, here we go. No feelings hurt if I read one of your suggestions and we give you an X. So first one, Sue4, show in reports how much we healed other legions with pets, artifacts, and our own legion in this pan, and also get merits for healing others. Now, bear in mind, this already kind of breaks the rule because, again, one suggestion per message. This is technically two, where this person says, and also get merits for healing others. So, because this is two separate suggestions and not multiple suggestions within the same main line, we're not going to vote for it and abstain because it doesn't qualify or is eligible for us to vote. Number two, or the second one, from, I'll just say this person. Please add larger farming nodes. I feel like these small nodes are a patchwork for giving something for people to do when they're bored their minds off. Excuse me, because of the lack of PvP due to diplomacy, matchmaking, or map killing off any real valuable content. Give us nodes that have 2 to 4 million RSS, so farming is not a grind because this game is to be about PvP. So, I mean, yeah, would it be great to have larger RSS nodes? Sure. Is it something that's absolutely killing the game? No. It's not. Again, part of it is supposed to be a little grindy, where it's not always absolutely convenient for people to have nodes that you can farm for 8 hours and then you're good, right? That'll basically occupy your sleep time. It's not that I'm necessarily against this. I tend to probably lean a little bit more towards this type of suggestion. I just, again, I think the thing is that the way that this is worded by this person, the way they formatted this, the way their tone in this, along with that, and respectfully, this just doesn't really come off as professional. I'm not going to vote for this. Again, if this was worded in a way that gave more clear examples and justifications for why larger nodes should be added, instead of just give me more larger nodes because I want them, then I would probably vote for this. But again, this is why suggestions need to take time the way you write them, and you have to understand that you need to provide good reasonings, potential evidence, and or data, and just, again, something that's well written. So because of that, I'm not going to vote for this. Even though I agree, I would tend to agree and lean a little bit more on agreeing, I'm going to abstain for now. Please rewrite your suggestion. Savijo. Make the player from the highest power alliance king. Allow the king to pick which players will join for KVK. The remaining players automatically fill into a separate group and enter a separate KVK. Dang, this is intense. I'm going to go with a hard no on this. Yeah. First off, I don't really agree with just automatically making the highest power alliance king, where it almost comes off automatic. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think, again, ideally you would want people to either attack the final building, or even if you want to make it more efficient, you attack it and then you can transfer kingship. That would be a lot easier, so people don't have to keep re-attacking it, because it doesn't really make sense to keep doing that. Unless you're getting rewards or there's some benefit from it, and that's if you're looking at something like Infinity Kingdom, Rise of Kingdoms, etc., other kingdom builders that have already a kind of final structure building that you capture, and then you get access to king tools, king-queen tools, I should say. So something like this where it's just automatic, that's a hard no. Allow the king to pick which players will join for KVK. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, because you want everyone to join for KVK, right? You don't just want a few people. You want as many people to potentially join for KVK. So, why would you limit yourself in that regard? I mean, unless you're doing that because you guys are so messed up. You guys are just voting the way I'm voting as I'm Howard streaming. That's hilarious. but ideally, right? Like, I mean, maybe if you're saying that you want to choose people, so like the trolls don't come in or something to that effect, like maybe that's the direction you're going. But again, this is like a 2-sentence suggestion. It doesn't do enough. It doesn't explain enough. And then the remaining players will automatically fill into a separate group and enter a separate KVK. Like, how much work are you trying to create for the developers? Like, that is just a hard no. I mean, like, just take a moment and reflect on thyself. B4H, Ion, do not treat the Spring Warden ground calves as melee when using the auto position melee range legions when marching. Do not treat the Spring Warden ground calves as melee when using the auto position melee range. Okay, this is a lot, right? Can you use it in a sentence, please? Rewrite this a little bit, because to anyone who may not, and I kind of get what they're saying, but this isn't written well enough for the average person to understand. And that's the big thing you have to take away when you're writing up suggestions. Here's Czar. I think Czar just sent me a DM a little while ago. Enable R5s, R4s to be able to remove AFK marches from behemoths if they fail to press ready on prepare. I'm actually okay with this. I would even be okay if they failed it, they're automatically removed, right? I think that would be okay, like automatically removed from the behemoth area. But this is okay as well. I'll actually vote yes for this. This makes sense. It's pretty clear. I don't think that this necessarily needs a lot of explanation, even though he could have wrote a little bit more and covered his basis on saying, well, if they don't vote yes, I can remove them, or you could have added if they don't vote yes and don't give a suggestion, they're automatically moved outside of the behemoth territory. That would have been okay as well. Web3 Swiss, give R4, R5 the rights to remove turrets. I think generally I'm okay with this, right? I am not necessarily against them not being able to remove turrets. I think this is actually okay, where if you give some people the ability to remove turrets, I think this is all right. I think it does somewhat make sense on if there's certain turrets you need to remove because maybe you need to place a flag and that person's offline and you can't really attack the turret, right? You need some way to kind of remove them because remember, they can always be replaced. So I'm actually okay with this. Maybe it could be done a different way, but even if they have the right to remove them, you're not going to have R4s and R5s that are just removing turrets for no reason. Especially if everyone in that alliance is for that alliance and there's not like a spy or someone that gets in there and they just remove everything. Now, could this be a little bit more well thought out? Yes, but I do think it's straightforward enough, right? So I actually vote yes on this one. I think the suggestion is okay to look at. Rimudu Senpai! What's up? Welcome. Okay, Poibo 17. We need a visual update for Spring Warden and Wilderberg tier troops, please. We need to see the difference between a T4 and a T5. I would actually vote yes for this. I am in favor of seeing visual differences between T4 and T5, so I like that. Sun 9 Erst, for future seasons maps, move the final zone back to the center of the map. This will contribute to better balance. Final zone back to the center of the map. This will contribute to better balancing throughout a season. Again, for balance purposes, return to a symmetrical system in terms of behemoths and the buffs they give, so everyone can have the same opportunities regardless of the chosen starting zone. Strategy, games, maps, as symmetrical as possible for balancing. So, excuse me. I don't really agree on this one, and it's not because symmetrical maps may not be looked at as being favorable, but you can still get good value out of asymmetrical maps. And I actually, for one, enjoy asymmetrical maps in these types of games more than I enjoy symmetrical maps. And that's specifically for KVKs. I'm okay with the Home Kingdom for Season 1 being symmetrical, right? But if it's a KVK, I actually somewhat enjoy more asymmetrical maps for KVK than I do symmetrical ones. I understand what they're saying, But to be fair, the territory per zone across Season 2 and Season 2 Plus is not horrendous, right? Like, yes, you could argue that more Brez in Season 2 Plus is a little bit bigger than Doolin on that Zone 3 for Season 2 Plus. Now, is it abhorrently bigger? No. Is it bigger? Is it noticeably bigger if you just pay attention, you look around? Yes. But it's not something that I think breaks the game in any capacity. Yeah. Could they make the territory asymmetrical, but then still try to have relatively balanced positioning for behemoths? Yes, they can do that. And those are things that they can fix without having to immediately go to a symmetrical map system, right? They can make those adjustments in game for new maps. So for this one, I don't think that it's really going to... I don't think going to a symmetrical map system is going to truly balance. And also, what balance purposes are you meaning? This is what we talk about when we say you have to be specific with... right, and it does say here, it's system in terms of behemoths and the bust they give. So everyone can have the same opportunities regardless of the choosing starting zone. But to be fair... when I did my analysis of the Season 2 Plus map, and we looked at multiple maps, it was pretty much the same behemoths that were in the same starting zones. The only difference was some of the positioning of them. So, again, I think this would be easier if they gave some examples. If they said, well, hey, if you look at this map in this kingdom, at these points, you can see that it's different. There really wasn't a lot of evidence here to be supported. And on top of that, I just don't think that this is a hard selling point, right? So for that, I'm actually going to give it an X. Alpacalypse. Make new server formation at the end of the season based on alliance power. This way, similar power levels are combined and the fights will be closer in terms of power. Also, you can better balance behemoth power based on servers' average power. For example, S1 can be all the strongest alliances for every season, S2 a bit weaker, S3 even more, etc. There is also a certain appeal to aim to be in the strongest server. Make new server formation. So KVKs is what they're saying, right? So KVKs should go off of the end of season based on alliance power. But what does that mean? Are you saying based on 1 alliance, 2 alliances, 3 alliances, 4, 5 alliances? And then are you using that as the metric across the groups? So are you saying, okay, we're going to look at the top 5 or top 7 alliances power? Or are you just looking at 1 alliance's power? This suggestion is not specific or clear enough, and for that reason alone, got to give it an X. Because again, we shouldn't push things forward if they're not articulated well enough for the average person to understand, right? Details and specifics matter. Glossariac 123. Automatically activate War Frenzy when fighting behemoths, removing the need for everyone to scout for plus attack buff before starting. So I'm iffy on this one because, and the reason I say that is because if they had intended for War Frenzy to be activated when fighting behemoths, they just would have done it. Clearly, it's not meant to be activated. So because of that, this is something where you would actually go and do it. Sorry, let me grab those real quick. This is something that you would go and do on your own. Again, I'm not overwhelmingly for this, and I'm not overwhelmingly not against it. You know what I mean? Like this, it's not. It is what it is. Like you're going through a step that is a roundabout way for you to have a higher, to be stronger, going into a fight that the game design was not intending for initially, right? So again, it is like if they if they change this and they made it so that way when you attacked a behemoth you would get War Frenzy, would I be against that? No. Like if they wanted to make that change, okay, cool. But am I overwhelmingly advocating for this to be changed based on the current way it is? No. Do I also understand that there is a buff that people can get and everyone that's going to attack a behemoth can apply it? And yeah, is it a roundabout way to have to scout people so you can get that going in? Yes. All of that is understood. I just don't know if I'm overwhelmingly sold on, let's add in War Frenzy because we're doing PvE when War Frenzy is PvP. So I think because of that, I'm going to abstain. I don't think I'm going to vote one way or the other because I don't feel overwhelmingly towards one side or the other on this one. It just kind of is what it is. Okay, next one here by Benjamin Pang. I want to start off by saying I absolutely already love the fact that this person has slightly formatted their post. I mean, I should just give you the green check because you came prepared. You came ready, right, to submit a suggestion, good sir. So I just want to say thank you for that. Okay, let's go. Problem. We typically zoom out during war to attack other troops. However, we need to zoom back in to apply artifact skills for a lot of the artifacts, except Infernal Flame. Suggestions. Auto-trigger and auto-aiming artifact skills. This helps specifically during massive PvP when game might be lagging, and during PvE. Imagine infantry will auto-apply taunt when it first attacks. That saves a lot of time and make the game more pleasant to people who can't be on screen all the time at micromanaged troops. For artifacts that are directional, just apply it to the direction of the currently targeted March of Darklings. Auto-trigger and auto-aim should be two separate features that can be toggled on and off. For example, some players might want to manually trigger artifacts, but want a one-button mechanism similar to Infernal Flame to trigger artifacts. In that case, players will turn auto-trigger off, auto-aim on. Okay. So basically, just want to remove the need to only have it be manually activated, right? Where you can auto trigger, you can enable a function where it'll auto proc artifact skills the moment they come up, but it'll only go in a singular direction, right? So you can't use them tactically. So my initial thought process is going down the path of, I understand where they're coming from, where they want to automate this, they want to make this a little bit easier to use, and probably experiencing a difficulty in proccing artifacts in large-scale fights. That's obviously something that I think the devs can work on their end to potentially help and assist with that endeavor when it comes to for large-scale fights. You know, maybe it's reducing the characters on the map to like one troop, right? Kind of similar to what they did with simplified graphics in Rock, or something else for that matter. I personally like the fact that you have to manually activate all your artifact skills, regardless if it's just kind of a simple proc or if it's you have to like move and target it and then activate. That isn't to say that I'm against having the option to auto activate or auto trigger, as this person says, your artifact skills, but still being able to manually use them if you want to disable that. I just don't know if I'm like overwhelmingly over the moon on I don't know. I just don't know if I'm like really sold on it, on that, like, yeah, this change needs to absolutely happen. I mean, I like the fact that people get to manually choose when they can proc their artifact skills. And I think the core or the root of the problem is more about, well, hey, is there a way to address large-scale fighting that causes lag for artifact skills when you're trying to activate them, or after you click to activate them, and then there's maybe some kind of a delay. That, to me, seems like more of where the root of the suggestion is coming from, rather than trying to address that. It's more of, okay, well, hey, this is just something that they're probably have experienced, and they're thinking, well, if we just make these automatic, it will solve that, right? So, or at least I should say, give the option to make them automatic. So I think for me, I'm going to abstain on this one. It's not that I'm necessarily against it, or necessarily for it. Like, I get why it could be beneficial, but for me, I'd like to try and look at how to solve the root cause more so than kind of putting this, I guess, somewhat of a Band-Aid fix on it. Because the other side of it is that if you start adding in things like this, what's to stop quality of life from continuing down a path of where we're going down an automated route, when the whole idea and purpose of the game, at least on this track and this line of thinking, is meant to be more skill usage based, right? And so you're really only going to get that if it's always only manual. Another way of looking at this is that if you look at a game like League of Legends, they don't have some type of system that'll just auto-proc skills for every single skill that you have on every single champion, at least to my knowledge. When I played League, they didn't have that. This was years ago, of course. And maybe they have added something recent in. But from what I remember, right, whether the skill was AoE or if it was directional, you always had to activate each thing manually. So, and again, because you have skills that are on particular champions, or excuse me, on particular legions, the thing for me is I like the fact that there's true skill enabled with being able to manually activate. And so I think for me, I'm going to abstain from this one. I would like to see, I would like to try and see the root cause addressed first before we go to adding something like this. However, I will say this. If they were unable, if they're unable or unable to address the root cause, where it's, hey, look, there's just no way that we're going to be able to decrease the amount of potential lag when 300, 400, 500 legions are fighting it out, and like that's something that they've stated, that there's just no way to get around that. You just have to try to adjust your settings the best you can and then wait until enough units die. Then, okay, right, maybe you might sell me a little bit more on this. So yeah, that's where I'll say I'm on the fence on that one. Let's go to MZ1234. Increase the road capacity for alliances in S1. It was fine because the map was significantly smaller. Than S2 and 2+. With the current way of things, alliances have to delete a bunch of roads every now and then to be able to progress along the map and reach objectives, which eventually leads to losing villages, and overall is rather punishing to all the members, especially with how limited the slots are in villages. It's scarcity of villages. If scarcity of villages is added to the equation as well, it's rather frustrating. A possible solution, as I said, could be either increasing the road limit by a few hundreds of meters, or simply allow the village limits to be in sync with the available members limit, so members are still limited with the village count and can still choose which villages. This is just a lot. Geez, I feel like there's multiple things that are in here. Limited members of village count can still choose which villages they want to keep and which villages are not really worth it. So I think if the main point of this is just to, hey, can we increase road length for alliances? This is the thing. I'm actually okay with them increasing road length. However, I think something specific, at least I wish something specific was stated here. I mean, it does say a possible solution, as I said, could be either increasing the road limit by a few hundreds of meters or simply allowing the village limits to be in sync with the available members limit. I mean, this is technically like two different things, right? This is like two suggestions in one, which again goes kind of against the rules. The rule for submitting suggestions is supposed to be one suggestion, right? They're basically offering two and an either or, one that is specifically related to roads and one that is specifically related to village limits. So because of that, I'm not going to vote. Because it would be irresponsible to vote for two suggestions in one when it's just both of them aren't really clear, or I guess you could say one is a little more clear than the other. So if this was just one suggestion, if this was just a suggestion for increasing road capacity, and they said, hey, let's increase it from 1,200 to 1,500 kilometers, I'd be okay with that. If you're just aiming to increase road capacity, or that's the specific suggestion, and it's only that one, I'd vote yes for that. If there was a separate suggestion on adjusting village member capacities to either raising those or reverting it to the previous system, which was a better system in my opinion, where you didn't have village member capacities, all you had to do was connect a road to the village within territory, and then it automatically applied the passive buffs from the villages to every member in the alliance, I would vote yes for that. Because of that, I'm going to abstain. And that's just because the suggestion needs to be cleaned up. Let's get to Pestilence, 7329. Yeah, Adrian. I mean, I completely agree. It needs to be something that's applied to all the players the way that they need to revert it back to how it was. Pestilence 7329. Remove caravan event and improve game performance when there are many legions on the screen. Oh, this just is not specific enough. And I don't really know why people would want to. I mean, is there like some overwhelming push to remove caravan that I just haven't heard about? I think because of that, I'm going to X this. I mean, this suggestion just isn't detailed enough, nor is it formatted. I don't belong here. 951. Yo, should we just red X this because this says I don't belong here? Add a wild card to upgrade the level of any legendary artifact, obtainable at least one time for season. Level 5 through Forge of Lights is so RNG dependent, and in the worst case, cost an insane number of keys. So it's at least 1 to 2 wild cards for season would help to work on artifacts in the long run without making them easy to max. Also still needed to use Forge for the first copy. So we're adding a wild card to upgrade the level of any legendary artifact obtainable at least one time for season. 1 to 2 wild cards for season would help to work. I mean, I guess the suggestion is coming from a place of that some artifacts are hard to level. And to be honest, I really haven't messed around too much with Forge of Light, so I would be out of my depth when it comes to that particular event. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I guess I would defer to people who are, you know, I mean, if I'm going off my current account now, I mean, to be honest, I don't do chests as much as I should do chests. I mean, let's be real. And yeah, I think that's probably the big one, is I probably should do more of like the lucky chest so I can get higher rates for pulls. You know, I think I probably would have a bit, like if I was doing them every day, I think I'd probably have a better idea on, you know, like what is the rate at which artifacts are really coming in if I was doing those since day one. I think with where I'm at now and how often I do 10 pulls, which is still decently often, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe, yeah, for some of the legendaries, it's been a minute, or it usually is like a pretty decently long time. I just don't know if this suggestion is detailed enough for me and is maybe as descriptive and as thought out potentially as maybe I would like. Part of me feels like I'd like for this to be a little clearer. Yeah, I think I'm going to abstain on this one. Like I generally see the direction and where they're going with it, but I part of me feels like I'd want it to be a little bit more descriptive, and then the second part of me is that I'm not min-maxing my account the best way that I could be doing it to then really appropriately gauge on, well, what's the rate that I'm really getting these artifacts leveled up or not, especially for the legendary ones. Okay. Let's go here. So we have Why Not Our 1949. Ion, as the game progresses and more heroes are added, it becomes hard to level up more than 5 main pairing. The 6th or 7th march takes too much time to be leveled up in time for war times. I would suggest to speed up a bit the leveling process and incrementing the EXP gain from Darkling. So the reason I'm actually going to vote no on this one is specifically because of the recent adjustments that they've made already, where now if you level a hero to 30 or a 30 and beyond, the hero will have a soft reset down to 30, right? So they're already starting off the heroes at a higher level with the soft reset. I at least would say let's let that run through a season or two first to see how that plays out. And then if people still have the same feelings, then okay, I would vote yes to this potential suggestion. But again, this has to be a little bit more clear too as well. Let's go to the next one. I think that skills and talents. Oh, sorry. This is Onion. I'm not going to try. I am not going to fall into that trap. It's a trap. They want to confuse me. So I'll just say Aniol. I think that skills and talents related to engineering need a change because they significantly lag behind the rest due to the cap. The percentage increase in engineering doesn't contribute much to the game. I suggest strengthening them, for example, instead of enhancing the percentage of engineering skills. Engineering skills could deal additional damage to towers every once in a while, e.g. plus 500 damage to the tower every 5 minutes of destruction, and the same for building, plus 500 HP every 5 minutes or building. The numbers could be balanced. These are just examples. Engineers can do a lot. They just need a little love. I don't necessarily disagree here. I actually really like the direction that this person's suggestion is going in with like the thought process of investing a little bit more here onto this. I think the challenge for me is like they just give only one example that is particularly for a talent. Well, I guess it could be for a skill or a talent, really. When it comes to engineers, I mean, even something like gaining EXP, right? Yeah, I think part of me when I read this suggestion, it starts off very broad and vague, but then it goes into a specific suggestion. I understand it's an example that they're giving, but I don't know. It's like part of me wants this to be a little bit more specific on what they mean. Like if it's, hey, add this thing to the engineering, right? Or add this to engineering instead of, hey, we need skills that are more related to them. And I understand, yeah, they're just saying that and giving an example. It's not that I wouldn't vote no on this. I just would like for it to be a little more detailed. You know what? I'm going to give you a pity yes right now. And because I believe in it. I believe in the suggestion. I need more from the suggestion, right? And I don't want anyone to be kind of misled by when they read this and they see that it has a lot of upvotes. You know, there needs to be a little bit more oomph behind it. COD portal. Add the ability to be guaranteed to receive a skill when you release your pet. For example, if you caught a pet with 3-star skill, you can increase its affection level to a certain level, and when you release it into the wild, you'll have the opportunity to choose the skill you want to get. This way, pet food will be more beneficial. I think this makes sense, right? The challenge is that I haven't messed with any pets, right? So, like, I still haven't even gone out to cap a pet. So, even though I should now, because of the recent update, I should be more inclined to do so, and I'm sure I will at one point. I think this makes sense to me, where I guess what they're saying is that you're not getting really any benefit from food outside of raising affection level, and they want the investment from the food to the affection level to mean something in this one instance of when you release a pet. And I guess what they mean by this is that when you release a pet, you have a chance to receive a skill, and they're saying they want this to be a guarantee that you receive a skill, and then you can choose the skill. I mean, I think if you're going from random to a guarantee, that already seems like a good jump or a big jump. But then not only do you want a guarantee, you want to be able to select the guaranteed skill. Like now you're just asking for a lot at that point, right? So I think that if this was like, this is kind of like a two-part suggestion, right? That's bundled into one. I think that if this suggestion was written in a way that was a little bit more like if it explained what the issue was, went into the challenges, and then talked about solutions or a solution to it, I would be more inclined to vote yes for this. This to me just doesn't really do, I think, this suggestion enough justice because it's not clear on what's the problem, what are the obstacles, what's the solution, right, and then what's the justification for that. I would just, for something like this, I'd like to see more of that. So I'm not going to vote on that one. Leo Force 4770 makes the elixir capacity higher, so it takes 12 hours to completely fill. Logging in twice a day should be enough to heal. So a similar thing with this. What I'd love to know here when these types of suggestions are being submitted is when you're doing this, talk about what the challenge is. How do the elixirs currently work? How much time are you spending? Having to wait to then log in. Why is this an issue? And then what's your fix for that? That is not detailed here at all. See, that's the thing when you see a lot of people that are submitting suggestions. They're submitting suggestions as though they assume that everyone understands their problem. And the fact is that not everyone understands the problem. You have to spoon feed the way that you write suggestions so people will understand why you're suggesting something the way you are, and that can actually increase the number of votes you get, because then you're explaining the problem and here's the solution. The only thing that we see here is the solution in a very simplified, short way, and this is just not doing it justice. I get what they're saying, and I'm actually somewhat inclined to agree here, but the suggestion isn't written well enough, nor is it detailed enough to really sell people on getting a lot more votes than it probably could get. So, yeah, for this one, I'd love for there to be more. Because of that, I'm going to abstain. Maz5441. When you play multiple servers, it might be easy to choose the server you wish to start playing on instead of just stating in the server you last played on. Wait, what is this? When you play, it might be easy to choose the server you wish to start playing on instead of starting in the server you last played on. This would make it way more efficient and avoid changing server immediately after logging in and having to wait for the game to start 2 times in a row. Part of me feels like I'm not getting this one. When you play multiple servers, it might... Oh, I see. When you're playing multiple servers, I guess with one email account, it might be easy to choose instead of just starting in the server. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. So I see where they're going with this. So what they're saying is that when your game's loading, it'd be nice to have the ability to select the server you want to load into instead of the game automatically loading you into the last server you played on. I actually think this is a phenomenal suggestion. The problem is that it's not worded appropriately, or it's not worded in the best way that can describe that. But this is actually a hidden gem of a suggestion. It's just, I'm not going to vote for it because it's not written well enough to really explain. But this suggestion is A1. This is a top tier suggestion, probably the best one that I've seen so far. And I should probably write this down somewhere on my suggestion thing. For like the PC. Do I have something like for PC client on here? I don't know if I do. I'll put this under quality of life. And we'll do when logging in, have server list or have, have list of servers. We'll just say have list of account servers to choose from before Kingdom loads, something like that. Okay, yeah, and I know what I mean. I know what I mean. Yeah, okay. Oh man, no, that was a good one. That actually got me somewhat excited. Pestilence 7329 says, enable merits as soon as fighting as possible. Stop ramping up merit shop quality. Instead, give us full merit shop as soon as merits unlock, which should be as soon as fighting. I agree here wholeheartedly. I like how they just listed off 2 points. Again, I would have liked for them to ease into the explanation here and like set the floor for, again, what's the issue, what's the problem, how do we solve it? This is clear enough, but it's not clear enough for like the average everyday player, right? But I do agree here. I like the fact that you could start earning merits immediately as soon as the fighting starts. It doesn't really do anything if you're fighting and you're not earning merits. It just feels like such a bad net, like a net loss. So I do agree here. I could go more deep into this as far as talking about, well, again, are we talking home kingdom starting zones versus anyone being able to choose where they want to go, and then fighting happening in zone 1 versus if it was delayed, you probably wouldn't need a suggestion like this. But do I like where the suggestion is coming from? Because I think it's more of a net positive than anything else. I do. Okay, let's go. Dobrij, let us permanently turn off War Frenzy notification. I guess if you're saying, can we have the option to turn it off for when you get the notification,
Okay, I'm actually okay with that. If they're just saying, hey, give us a toggle option to turn it on and off, I'm okay with that. Add more gold. Will Xvol. Add more gold keys, heroes that are somewhat as good as pay-to-win ones. Kanara, Haas, Lilia, Skogul, Goresh, and more. So I'm like on the fence here because my view on this is, what I'd like to see them add more legendary heroes to gold key chests, sure. But would I also like for them to eventually come out, or even, I should say, would I like for them to come out with an event similar to Card King in Rise of Kingdoms where you can choose any hero to get sculptures for them by participating in kind of like a mini game? Yeah, like that could be cool. Would I like to see them maybe do something like that here in COD, where they come out with a game that allows for you to unlock and gain sculptures for any legendary hero, especially the gated ones? Yeah, like would I almost like to see that? See, that's kind of where you have to give a toss up. Like, do you want to see something like that, or do you want to see them just going into adding more of the heroes into gold chests? Now, let me give you another angle on this, right? So, I think you guys are going to like this one a lot more. So, my other angle on this, and this is something I actually think could be a lot better, that is not where they don't have to add in any events. So, to me, I think the improvement for this type of where this person's going with actually would be better is if when they release new legendary heroes that are not automatically going to the gold key chest, they allow, and they're pay to win gate, like they're pay to win or they're gated. You allow a certain amount of time. So let's say 2 new heroes come out. One hero is pay to win, one hero goes to the gold chest. The hero that's gated and you have to spend to unlock it, that hero is only pay to win gated for like a short period of time. And then it transitions to the gold key chest. That's how I think it should work. Now what would that time look like? Is it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months that hero is gated where you have to spend money to unlock them? Is it the duration of 1 season, the duration of 2 seasons, right? Whatever it may be. But for me, that's how I'd like to see it be done. I'd like to see when they release a hero that you have to spend for. Again, you could still keep the price for spending it, right? To get more of them. But after a certain amount of time elapses, I'd like to see that hero then move to the gold key chest for eventually all heroes to be unlockable by free-to-play. That's how I think the system should work, and I think it would be a lot better because of that. So for that, I'm not going to vote on this because I just don't think this is the right play overall. This will probably be the last one that I read because I think we've been going for a minute here. So we have, who's this? Grenvy? Can you separate the merit gained by killing T5 and T4? Additionally, please provide a detailed log of the weekly merit gained through war or idle farming. I mean, you can already tell this suggestion is ineligible because they're already suggesting more than one feature or change within a single suggestion. But we'll still read it. War or idle farming, infantry versus infantry. We are attempting to calculate active players by weekly merit, ensuring that the end of the season rewards are distributed fairly according to their level of activity, but some of them may have bad luck when fighting T5 with T4 units, resulting in smaller merit gains. This is in contrast to players who are barely online, but engage in merit farming, gaining a large amount in single fight. So if they separated this suggestion and broke this up, and they said, hey, can you separate merits gained from T5, T4? I don't know. I just don't know if... it's not bad, right? I guess I shouldn't be against it. I mean, more data isn't, at the end of the day, bad, especially for something like this. I wouldn't vote on this. I'm going to vote no on this because this is just ineligible to me. And again, it's already ineligible because they have multiple suggestions in one suggestion. But if they wanted to break up, if they wanted to give you like a total merit and then they gave you a merit breakdown based on how many T5, T4, T3 you've killed. And then they also did like a units killed breakdown, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for. So if they kind of add in a merit breakdown along with a total merits gained, I don't think that's an issue. Very similar like in Rock, where if you select units killed, it'll give you the breakdown for how many T4, how many different tier troops they've killed. I would actually be okay with that if they did that on a merit, because I think it would also allow for you to see what the value is, the value point gains per unit tier that you kill. So I think more data like that actually could be pretty beneficial. But the problem is I'm not going to vote yes for this because it has multiple suggestions in one. So it's like I said, it's already ineligible. With that in mind, that pretty much ends our suggestions spree.